Hello everyone, this is Isha for Pinkfresh Studio. Today I'm sharing two masculine theme cards with you. For today's cards, I'm going to use the Grateful Greenery stamp set, coordinating dies, along with the coordinating stencils. I'm also using the border stencils, largest of the nested rectangles postage edge dies, basic sentiments stamp set, overlapping geometric stencils, framed art stencils, stippled plaid press plate, happy vibes stamp and coordinating dies, decorative frames press plate and coordinating die. I'm going to start with the first card now. It has got gorgeous check pattern which I am going to create using the border stencils. I am using the horizontal lines and the vertical lines of the stencils. Overlap them and add washi tape so they won't move while we are adding ink through them. This is a good way to stretch your supplies, which is something I always experiment with. I am adding Misty Coast ink using the half-inch blending brush and then moving towards the sage ink. Try to blend over the previous color too. I am finishing by adding the slumber ink. Overlapping the colors helps in achieving smoother look instead of patches of individual colors. Peek through the stencil a bit in case we didn't get the color as per our liking. Here it looks perfect, so I removed the stencil. Stamp the leafy branch using detail black ink. I didn't get a good impression for the first time, so I am stamping it twice. Having a stamp positioner certainly helps at this stage. We need three of the stamped images, out of which I am going to use two for my second card. I am going to start adding color using the stencils. There are three stencils in this set, so it's perfect for beginners too. You can add as little or as much shading you want here. Starting with stencil number 1, I am adding sage ink to some of the leaves and keeping the most saturation towards the leaf base. Remember to wipe the stencil in between. And move on to the slumber ink for variation in color. I am following the same process. Keep the color most concentrated towards the base of the leaves while ink blending. I also added some blue ink to the sage leaves. This is to build up the depth. I am looking at the image and feel I need more depth. So I am bringing the eucalyptus ink and adding color only to the base of the leaves. If you don't want to do so many steps or use so many colors, one color ink blending will also look equally good. Second stencil is the leafy cluster branch, and I'm using eucalyptus ink and slumber ink with a slight heavier hand. There are berries on the third stencil, and I'm going to use clementine ink here. I am varying the pressure while blending. This way it looks light and dark in different parts. Wipe the stencil before moving on to the sweet mustard ink. This is to add some warmth and brightness to the image. Look at this lovely illustration and how much depth we could achieve by using different colors of inks and pressure. I use the coordinating dies to die cut the image. I die cut the white panel using the largest of the postage die. Normally, I tend to go with a white card base, but today I decided on using some colored card base. I added 3D foam behind the white panel and adhered it to the card base. Here you see me fiddling with my panel to be straight. Next, add some 3D foam behind the leafy branch and remove the backing paper. I curved the leaves a bit for added dimension. I'm checking the placement to adhere the image by planning where the sentiment would come. Adhere the image. Here the struggle is real to choose the sentiment. Finally, I decided to use It's a Big Day from the basic sentiment stamp set. I place the stamp onto the mini misty, ink it using detailed black ink, and stamp onto the white card. Next, I am cutting the sentiment into a stripe. Adhere to the colored cardstock and mat it from top and bottom. This will help the sentiment to pop out a bit from the white base. Adhere to the card using 3D foam, and here is a close up to see all the dimension we achieved. And our first card is done. Moving on to the second card, I am starting with the stencil number 2 of the overlapping geometric stencils. To add color, I am using Slumber ink with the 1-inch blending brush. Since this is a comparatively bigger area, ink with a light hand and keep building the color strength. Next step is to move on to the brush stroke stencils from the frame art stencil number 1 and 2. I am using Slumber ink, Misty Coast ink and Sage inks here. Starting with Slumber ink, sponge ink through the broader brush stroke using a lighter hand. Now, shuffling between the two stencils and ink colors, I am trying to get a balanced pattern here. Mixing various patterns or products is another way to get more out of our supplies. I kept the similar color palette for both the cards. This is just to share how adding textures and layers can change the entire look of the project. Here you can see the finished panel on the side. I am going to letterpress this panel with the Stippled Plaid press plate. Put the press plate onto the letterpress system. Adhere the white panel to the acrylic plate. Sorry, I went a little off screen here. Run this through the die cutting machine. Look at this gorgeous play of patterns. Adding textures in layers gives a big impact on the finished project. I added color to the leafy branch in the same way as we did for the first card. Except here I am going to add marigold ink. By varying the pressure of the brush, we will get our dark and light shades. Die cut both the images. Adhere the white layer to the card base and then I am adhering the frame using liquid adhesive. I use the Decorative Frames press plate with detailed black ink. I always have some frames in my stash as this die cuts them all together. I feel it's very helpful when we need to create a card in a hurry. Then I am going to adhere the leaf images. This placement gives a kind of movement to the design. I am cutting the extra hanging bits using scissors. Later in the card photos, you will see I die cut the hanging part even further. I keep changing my design as I go and what feels right as it starts to take shape. I have this sentiment, I hope you are smiling today, from the Happy Vibes stamp set. I die cut a black card with the die and using liquid adhesive matted it behind the sentiment. This will pop our sentiment. Add 3D foam behind the sentiment, remove the backing paper and adhere to the card. This finishes my cards for today. I have linked all the products in the description box below. Thank you for being here with me. I hope you enjoyed these masculine projects. If you did, please like the video and make sure to subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notifications so to not miss any of the posts.